In this episode of the Beamable Game Dev Podcast, I sit down with Dogwood Gaming and we discuss their game Ashes of Kanaka and their upcoming Kickstarter. Let's jump into the interview. What is happening? It is another Beamable Game Dev Podcast. Today, I'm sitting down with Sam and Tyler and DJ from Dogwood Gaming, and we're going to be talking about their history with game development and the current game that they're working on and the story behind it. Sam, I'm going to let you kick us off here. And what's kind of your history with game dev?
Yeah, well, thank you for having us, and I'm so happy to be doing this because I love making video games, and I've gotten to do this officially for 6 years, but I started about 7 years ago with a bunch of my friends. We used to make Dungeons and Dragons handbooks based on our favorite video game series. And at the time, I was in my last year for my political science degree, and I had like a recommendation to go to law school, and that was what I was going to do. But it seemed really terribly boring and not fun, so I didn't want to do that. And my friends and I wanted to try and make video games, and here we are now. So somehow from doing that with just a couple friends at a hookah bar we used to go to, actually here in Rockville, is where I met everybody. We all started there, and now we've gotten to travel to conventions and like talk about making video games, and it's really crazy that we've gotten like here.
And Tyler, how about you? What's some of your history with game dev?
So I met Sam in 2017 at the hookah bar where everybody met each other. And I wasn't involved with the video game stuff. I was just a friend hanging out or whatever. And then I got interested in what he was doing with, was it Death and Taxes? I think.
Yeah,
Death and Taxes, which never got released.
That was probably one of the most fun games we ever got to work on.
I hope that one day we will be able to. But anyway, and then I just was like, hey, you need any help with anything? I can help you out. So Sam was like, oh, here's a dev build for Death and Taxes. Test it out, see how it works. And my computer almost exploded because of the game, the way it was built. So I was like, you might have a problem with this. And then he started working on Static, which we just recently finished again. I did testing for that, and again, found a bunch of things that were not broken on anybody else's computer, but definitely on mine. And so from there, I just started doing odds and ends. And when we started our current project, I was like, oh, I want to be all in on it. And so that's kind of how we've been moving forward. Is I'm the second in command because I was the guy that was like, hell yeah, let's do it. 100% all in.
Could not do this without him.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Gotcha. Okay. And then DJ, where do you fit in all this?
I was brought on board to help with the marketing side of things. So this is really just a dream job for me. I've been marketing professionally now for over 5 years. I've worked with over a dozen different companies, more than that, honestly, running your own marketing business. But as a fellow gamer, someone who loves video games, who has video game podcasts and loves to do this in my free time, getting paid to work with gaming, anything is like the dream job, right? And I feel like you kind of know the feeling too, being in that world.
Oh, absolutely.
Professionally is way better than only getting to do it in your free time. So.
Absolutely. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Maybe let us know some of the stuff you've worked on or maybe what you're working on and give us the rundown there. I know there's a game, it's Ashes of something, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, that was it's actually fun that that we're doing what our current project is we are remaking our very first title, which is Ashes of Kanaka. It's an old school JRPG made in RPG Maker MV. Because at the time, back in 2015, I think, that was the newest version, and none of us in the company knew how to program. Nobody. I was like, I don't know how we're going to make video games because I don't know how to program this at all. And I didn't even actually start out doing like the programming for it. I was the map builder. So what I would do is, an issue in RPG Maker games is they all kind of look the same, and they get a bad rap for that. So what I did was we built the basics of the map in RPG Maker. I would then export out those map files, and then I would take them into Photoshop, and I would then paint on grass and bushes and trees, and I used like 1,000 different maps. And it was about 6 months into developing that. E3 was coming up in 2016, and we were like, oh, I wonder if we can go to that. And we got developer passes to go to E3. I like cannot stress to you how insane this was to us, because I hadn't even made a game. Our characters were hand drawn, and we had to scan them into our game. Like, it was crazy. And it was such a time, because building up to E3, our programmer quit the day before we left, who was going to E3 with us. So it was like, oh, great, I guess I have to program the whole game now. Which, I mean, it was a lot, but it's kind of what threw me into doing so much of it. I was the head of the company in name only, just because the company needed one. But then I had to do so many different roles that it was like, oh, I guess I really am the head of this company. But I have to say that E3 2016 was really like the turning point for me and a lot of the people who worked with me. Right before we left and our programmer left, I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. This might be the end of it. I think like 9 different people from the hookah bar, because I would go to this hookah bar called Sam's and just work on my laptop all day and just program and make maps. They were just like, hey, Sam, we want to help you make this happen. And so our team grew from 3 to 14 in a day, and we went out to E3, and it was I just still don't have words for it. I remember sitting like at a booth in E3, and the lead developers for Watch Dogs came up to us, and we're like, oh, what are you guys working on? And like, we show them Ashes, and like, keep in mind, this is like, we've barely done anything, hand-drawn everything. And they're like, oh, this is amazing. I want to hear more about this. Come by our booth and like show it to all of us. And like genuine interest from like everybody in the development community. And that's just something that I've never seen like anywhere else. It was, no matter who these people were, it was people like the Battlefield devs, or people that make Mountain Blade, or like huge companies are all so excited to just talk to people that make video games, that it really inspired me to keep doing this.
Oh, I love hearing that. That is great. And so how many games have you guys launched at this point?
We've released 4. I don't technically count. Well, Static is a re-release, but there is so much more that was added to it. I've done a lot of projects. A lot of them haven't come to fruition, just because that happens to a lot of games in development. We've released Ashes. Ashes of Kanaka was the first game. The second game was a game called Private Detective Punch Drunk. That was a game. It was like a fever dream. In like how it was made, because this started probably right towards the end of Ashes' development, and we had like a pretty big team, and people were like, oh, we want to learn how to do 3D modeling so we can do games in like Unreal Engine, or at the time we were working in CryEngine. And so they came up with this idea, which was it's a 3D side-scrolling beat 'em up about you playing as a noir detective going after an evil video game corporation, taking beloved game ideas and turning them into microtransactions. I loved it. I loved it. It was fantastic. I had like left it alone for a pretty long time, because I had put all of my focus into doing Ashes. So I came into PDPD late, and I was like, hey, where are we? And they're like, oh, there's been no programming whatsoever. So me and my friend Andre sat in his parents' basement for 2 months and programmed that entire game. And yeah, I have to be honest with you. I'm not too confident that it still runs on modern computers because, like I said, that's the first game that we ever made in Unreal, and I didn't really touch much of the programming because I still hadn't done a whole lot then. But this was great. It used to have a functional multiplayer high score system. But the issue was that when you, if you submit a score of 0, which you could do, it would said that you came from Senegal, and it would bomb our leaderboards, and just break the entire system. The like fun bits of early programming.
Yeah. I got to do a quick plug for Beamable here. If anybody needs a leaderboard, they're developing in Unity. Plug and play. You have a leaderboard.
Hey, that's fantastic. I mean, because like it wasn't too complicated, I guess, at the time, but it's one of those things that like I wish I could just throw the leaderboard back in there because it really wasn't that bad at the time, but unfortunately it's a bit outdated because PDPD came out in 2018, maybe.
I love that like PDPD sounds like a Star Wars droid.
Oh yeah.
Let's talk a little bit more about Ashes because this is not some just like small project. I was told that in order to get the true ending of this game, it was playing through it 3 times and then each playthrough is 80 to 100 hours. Like this is an investment. So let's talk about like the length of the game and like some of the story and just kind of give us the goods on this.
I mean, Ashes was really born from that. So I will start with saying that everybody who worked on Ashes came into it as a die-hard Mass Effect fan.
Okay.
All of us were Mass Effect fanboys. The Dungeons and Dragons handbook we had made, it's called Dawn of Shadows and Specters. It's still on the internet somewhere. There's a Reddit post with it. And it's a full guidebook for how to play Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 in Mass Effect, in like a Mass Effect setting. So we were like, we want to make like an RPG that we loved, with all the elements that we loved from Mass Effect, but we don't know how to program. So it's like, how do we take all of these great elements from, I guess, Western RPGs and then put them into a JRPG setting, which is what we had for Ashes, which actually worked out really well in the long run because now we're able to have our gameplay and combat feel a lot like the Final Fantasy VII remake, which is really this like fantastic balance of, I think, action combat, like good free flowing like combat that isn't broken up by a lot of, how do you describe it? Like the problem with Ashes is like original Ashes is the combat's too slow.
Yeah, it's kind of actually funny. It's kind of very similar to the original Final Fantasy VII. It's turn-based, but it's more like the ATB system, where
that's actually exactly what it's called, the ATB system.
Where there's timers basically between actions, so it's not just you choose your attacks, it does it, goes back, starts your next turn. Kind of like a Pokemon thing. It's you choose your attack, you wait for the bar to fill, does the attack, then you wait for the bar to fill to choose your next attack, stuff like that. And it was slow. When I played through the game,
that's what it looks like.
I don't know if you guys are getting these screenshots here, but if you're watching the podcast, I'm trying to give you trying to keep up with the topics here on the footage. I would describe it as a slower Pokemon battle, right? I mean, it looks kind of Pokemon-esque, but imagine having 6 Pokemon battling at the same time on the screen. How long those turns take? That's kind of what it feels like, but not in a bad way. I mean, there's animations and there's bars that show you how fast people are going, and you make decisions during the move. So if you like JRPGs,
and there's definitely there's an appeal if you're a JRPG, if you are an old school JRPG fan. It was just that we, a lot of it was we wanted to be very story heavy and very companion heavy. The biggest thing about Ashes is that there are 55 different companions that you can have join your party. And we put a lot of effort in to make sure that every single one of them is unique, has a backstory. They all chime in throughout the entire game, so it's worth going back to things with companions that you get later in the game. And because of New Game Plus, you're able to play through the story with whatever companions you actually want to have in your party. But this like all really came from that RPG Maker unfortunately has a really bad reputation, because it's very easy to make a quick game. You know, I could make you a game, Josh. I give, it wouldn't be long, but I give you a game in like 30 minutes made in RPG Maker. No problems. And the issue is that because it's that easy, it's really easy to flood the Steam marketplace. And do you remember Greenlight, when there was Greenlight on Steam?
Yeah.
So this actually, we got really lucky because of Greenlight. Greenlight was notoriously bad for RPG Maker developers because people would just go through the Greenlight section, and if it's RPG Maker, they comment RPG Maker trash and downvote it. Doesn't matter what your game is, no chance. And that happened to Ashes. It was like we were trying to get through Greenlight and we couldn't even get through that process. And I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do? We got so lucky that right when that was happening was when they were ending Greenlight. I emailed Valve and said, hey, is there anything we can do? Because like we're getting bombarded by these negative RPG Maker reviews. The person from Valve actually was like, yeah, don't worry, you're approved. Push the whole thing through. And we ended up being like record release time for an RPG Maker game on Greenlight because of it. So you know, it was just trying to find things that could make the game unique in RPG Maker, because that was hard. And so what came of it was 55 different companions, an 80 to 100 hour long story with multiple playthroughs that require New Game Plus, a ginormous world that, worst thing about RPG Maker, there's a cap of 1,000 on everything. 1,000 variables, 1,000 switches, 1,000 maps. I hit 1,000 maps maybe 5 hours before the ending of the game. So I had to go through like all these maps and try to find like what isn't used, what can I cut back on. So we have this ginormous world for you to explore. It's the planet of Kanaka, which we designed to be. It's an Earth-like planet where humanity has had a chance to build up and have cities. So it's not like outposts and untamed. There's actual like human settlements there, but it's under threat from all the other people in the galaxy that want to have control of the planet. But you have a lot of different places to go through, and the video that we're showing and we're working on right now, which is our first city, Los Postres, is meant to be a space Las Vegas. And I could talk about that forever because that's been a lot of fun to work on, to try and get all these neon signs and all the casinos, and there's a lot in Ashes that really anything you're looking for, there's probably something based on it. This footage here that we're showing
is actually pretty dated. I mean, it's come a long way since then as well.
Yeah. Those lights aren't even the right colors anymore. It's actually like, and this is wild how like big of a difference just changing the lighting was. We had somebody come on late last year, Connor, who started doing lighting for us, and I like can't like explain how all of our games are night and day now. Like he the whole reason we even remade Static was because he found it on our work server and was like, oh, what's this? And started playing around the map. And then an hour later, he's like, hey, Sam, what do you think of this? And I'm like, oh, wow, it looks like an entirely different game. So it's been crazy that like now we're able to have like really professional quality lighting done to all the maps. It makes everything look a million times better.
What I love the most about the story is you guys just were like, we're going to make a game. Like nothing stopped you. You're like, we're going to like, we don't even know how to make games, but we're going to make games, you know? And like, I love that, because that's super inspiring, especially for anybody wanting to dip their toes into game dev right now. That's fantastic. And I love that you then, instead of just doing a sequel, you're going back and telling these stories again, but really it seems like, especially from what I'm seeing, that you guys are making the game you wanted to make from the get-go, because you've been able to refine your craft and get to that point. And I mean, even just seeing the character models, I've seen some of the weapons, and this
we're so lucky with the talent we have. I cannot stress to you that you're 100% right. This is great because this is what we wanted to do. There were so many things, like I mentioned before we started recording, that the script for Ashes is, I forget how much longer, but it is longer than Final Fantasy VII. And but thing was that there are a lot of things in there that you look at it and you're like, man, I can't really do this in RPG Maker. We have like scenes where like ships get blown out of the sky, and it's like there's just no way to do that in RPG Maker. And this is like, there is zero way any of this would be possible without our artist Stephanie. These weapons and all the characters up here were done by Stephanie. She won a contest with us, I think 2 years ago, when she had just started modeling. That was like her first real model was this weapon that she made us, which is a rifle we're actually using in the Ashes remake now. And she's just loved working with us. She's done everything I've ever asked for. She's worked on every game with us, and her quality was always incredible. It was always like 10 out of 10, but she's just gotten better and better. She went from never doing any, like she had only done like hard surface models, so like cars and guns and simple stuff like that. She'd never done characters. We got her the programs for it. She learned it entirely by herself. The first character took her 2 months. She now does a character in 2 weeks. And like you can see like all of like, I'm sorry, I could sing Stephanie's praises forever, yeah. but it's that now that we have these people, and a lot of them have been with us for an extremely long time. So it's people who we've seen that like grown from never touched a 3D modeling program to now they're making our like hero assets for all of our games, and it's nice because you have these people that love these projects, and that's why we're making Ashes. When we started the project about 1.5 years ago, remaking Ashes, we had just finished our last title, Knife Fight. And I love making Knife Fight. I think Knife Fight's one of the most fun games we ever made. It's a Super Smash Brothers style fighter, but you play as utensils in different restaurants. Stupid fun. But the issue was that we had actually partnered with local restaurants and bars. Actually, that one right there is Hysteria Brewing Company. They're about 30 minutes down the road. And we had partnered with them, and we were going to have releases with different restaurants, local tournaments, all these events. And then the lockdown happened, everything ended. We were like, okay, so local multiplayer is no longer an option because of what's going on. We have to do online. Online is such a beast, right, that it is still not functioning as it needs to be. And I think the development time for Knife Fight was maybe about 9 months. 7 months of it was the online. Like, wow, and
that's a lot of time.
Yeah, and we came off it with like, man, this thing is like really struggling online. We did a whole bunch of promotions. I did everything I could to do marketing on my own side, and it just couldn't get out there. Knife Fight just like could not get any kind of traction. So we're looking at it, and it's like, well, we looked at it this way. Someone had said that after we made Static, which was our third game that we just re-released, that we should try and make smaller games to see if we could appeal to a wider audience. So we made Knife Fight. And Knife Fight, unfortunately, was not able to do it. So longer story-based games couldn't do it. And shorter games that were trying to appeal to mass audience couldn't do it. But Ashes, our first title, made in RPG Maker, with all of the things that it had going for it, remained our top seller and our most successful game. And we're just like, man, what really was what made Ashes different? And I mean, yeah, Ashes had, a budget and like it had funding and we were able to do that. But the real thing was that every single person working on Ashes loved it. A huge thing with Dogwood is that I want everybody to have a say in what we're doing, no matter what their role is. Like, if you think something would look cool, tell us, and we'll do it. and we'll put it in. And I think, and you know, people love to have that kind of input in what we're doing, and it makes our world that much more interesting when you have that many people's artistic input in it. Yeah, I think that we're very fortunate to be able to do this now. And it's just looking back at like original Ashes, and I mean even Static that just came out. I would have never thought I would have been able to do this 6 years ago.
That's such a short time.
It doesn't feel like it, but I really appreciate that. No, and I mean it's really hard because a big thing for me is I love telling people, hey, go make video games. It's worth it. And it is. Anybody listening to this, if you want to make video games, it's worth it. You won't regret it. I'm not saying that this has not all been, roses and oh, we're funded all the time. All the games do great. I just told you, Knife Fight was not a success commercially. But do I regret making Knife Fight? No. I love making Knife Fight. Yeah. Being able to animate forks and spoons and have them beat the crap out of each other with giant particle effects going off. That was great.
Yeah.
I love that. But it's I don't know. It's really hard for people to get into it, and because it does take a lot of time. And I'm entirely self-taught. We have people in Dogwood who went to college for game design, and I really think both work. I mean, both people are just as competent and they do great things. But I think back on like what I've had to do to get to where I am in Unreal Engine right now, and it's hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of YouTube videos and different tutorial series. And, it is a really daunting thing. But the nice thing is that I can tell you I did do it all off YouTube videos. I think I watched one Udemy video. I made a game off of a Twitter thread tutorial. I mean, you can really, actually, I will say this. If anybody wants real inspiration for what you can do with video games, if you play Static, there's a part of the game where you're in this endless runner kind of thing where you're going through these tubes trying to dodge obstacles. Making that element was from that Twitter thread. And that was a full game at one point, and it's like, but that's the thing is you can find anything. I wanted to make a Tropico style city builder. There's a whole YouTube series on it. Unfortunately, the guy only has like 3,000 subs, but I mean, it's like you can find literally anything for any type of game you want to make.
Yeah, that's so great. I mean, and it really it takes out the option for excuses, right? Like if you really have the drive, if it's really what you want to do, go do it. Go do it. Find, life will find a way, right? And YouTube will help. So,
well, yeah. And one of the biggest things that I will always stand by is that I can teach somebody how to use Maya in a day or two. Like I can have like somebody can be working in 3D modeling in like 2 days, but I can't teach somebody to care. And unfortunately, in this industry, and I mean, really any artistic industry, you have to care about what you're doing to be able to do it because it is a lot of work. But at the same time, we get to wake up and make video games every day. Like what a dream come true.
Yeah. So I have to know, since you're, there's some inspiration from Mass Effect, like, is there a Rex style character that we can choose to save or not save in Ashes?
Okay, bear with me. Let us think for a second because this is a massive game. My goodness, yeah, because there's Tiamat. We have a Vermeer event that happens. So yes, there is 3. Actually, okay. Well, that's the thing is it's like you say that like Rex and it's like we want people to be like, I know the characters I want to play with. And it's like, that's what you want. You can have your whole party. That you want a whole party of Rexes, you can do it. And we want to, and in RPG Maker with the companions, there was only so much we could do. The most I could do in terms of their interactions with you is we have a lot of different checks so that they'll chime in if they're in the party with you. which is great because it makes them, it was like in Mass Effect 1 when you're riding down the elevators and like Garrus will start talking to Liara or something. Those kind of small things make your characters feel real and believable.
Right.
And that's a huge thing that we're trying to go into with the Ashes remake is there's going to be a lot of small things that we think people are really going to appreciate with the characters that they want to play with. A big thing that we have been building is we have a new AI system that we've been wanting to work with that will allow us to have really complex AI companions that we want to go, we want to push what you can do with them because I think Mass Effect did such a good job with how companions worked. I always looked forward to finishing a mission and coming back and going to all the different companions and going through all their dialogues and like going through everything about them and learning about them. And we're taking all of that and pushing it even farther to where they have personalities that will affect almost every aspect of what they do. An example we always use is the first companion you have and your superior officer in the game is Bones. And Bones is this war veteran, but he's got a snarky attitude and, he's always with you throughout the game. But he will behave in different ways based on what you do. Such as he has a favorite food preference, so he will appreciate which stalls you stop at in Las Postres for food. When you go to the casinos, he has a very aggressive gambling stance, so you'll be there, making smart decisions and doubling on your 11s and 10s, and Bones will have a 14 and decide he wants to double anyway. And that's the kind of interactions that we want to have is that you have your different party members that feel like, oh, this guy is a character. He's got his own personality and like the only things and like all the things he wants to do. That's a huge focus of what we're doing now. The different companions.
It's so great. Like I love what I'm seeing. I love what I'm hearing. So where can people find out more?
So we do have we have the pre-release email sign up for our Kickstarter, which we're going to be launching at the end of April. I am so excited for that because we have some pretty insane backer rewards planned for them. And it's and on top of that, you can also play the original Ashes. It's on Steam. Ashes of Kanaka. It will come up. DJ is actually building our new website for Ashes, so that'll be coming up. Yeah.
I was going to say he's the marketing guy.
If you want to find out about any of the games that these awesome guys are making, it's dogwoodgaming.com. So dogwoodgaming.com, we have links to everything there. You can also find all the games on Steam, social medias, at Dogwood Gaming. You can find us there. And then, like you just said, the website's going to be launching probably within the next week or two. We're going to have ashesofkanaka.com. We've already started production on it, so you'll just be able to go to ashesofkanaka.com and find the new remake there. But yes, we also have the Kickstarter that's going to be launching. Was that the end of April or Sam? Yeah. So we have the Kickstarter going to be going out at the end of April, which I'm sure we'll talk about more. And if you follow us on social media, you'll get all these updates. We post all about them. And we share screenshots and behind the scenes footage and lots of stuff. I mean, almost all of it is not even finished. We're literally just being an open book with people and showing them what's going on, what's being made.
Yeah. And we also stream active development stuff on Twitch multiple times a week. So if you want to follow along and watch us build the game, yell at Unreal Engine for doing things it's not supposed to.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun. That's twitch.tv/dogwoodgaming. So
love it.
Yeah.
Sam, I cut you off. I think you were going to say something.
No, you're fine. I was just, we love doing the development streams and we love having people in there because we want to be open. We have our Discord as well. We have an open Dogwood Discord where we post everything we're working on. So, we are like, hey, what do you think about this? And you can tell us if it's garbage or not, and then we can go back to the drawing board. But we want to be able to have that kind of open development because that's what makes games good and fun. I am not the all-knowing game developer gift to development. Like I'm not. I'm just a guy that wants to make video games. So if we put something out there and you're like, oh, I think this would be better, tell us. That's a good thing. Please do it because then we can improve on what we're doing. and make the game that everybody wants to play.
It's such a fantastic approach of just like peeling the curtain back and just saying, hey, here's what the process looks like, and here's what we're doing along the way. So I just want to say thanks for taking the time to hang out today. Sam, Tyler, DJ, you guys have been amazing, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of the Beamable Game Dev Podcast. If you'd like to be a guest and talk about your game, hit me up, josh@beamable.com, and we'll get something on the schedule. If you'd like to be able to chat with other game devs, head on over to beamable.com/discord. And if you'd like to try Beamable for free, head on over to beamable.com.